Welcome to the Tin Hat Podcast with your host, Chris Ellis.
Hello and welcome back to the Tin Hat Podcast, the home to all fan reactions, chat and nonsense on everything Kettering Town Football Club. You can listen to the Tin Hat Podcast on Spotify, Apple, Podbean or YouTube. You can also subscribe, like, follow and get involved by searching for the Tin Hat or the Tin Hat One if you're on Instagram or Twitter. It's a milestone poddy for today, as it's the first for our Match Hat series, where we bang our potato heads together and laugh, moan and or cheer very little on match reaction. So today I'm joined again by James.
How's it going?
And the better pinching, Josh.
Hello.
Thanks for joining again, chaps. So the countdown was on. The fans were flocking into the clubhouse and we were all poised to begin a new and bizarre season behind closed doors. Cracking start, eh?
Yeah, not quite what I expected, to be honest. All that excitement after Saturday as well. First game of the season, new squad. Manager's got his squad together. You're thinking, here we go. We're going to be, in a much better position this year. And didn't really get the juices flowing, did it? Let's be honest. We didn't get out of the traps at all. I mean, obviously we went 1-0 down in the first minute. Well, these things can happen. But you regroup, you get yourself together, stay in the game, and start to slowly get a foothold in it. And we just never did. I know Paul Cox said we lost it in the first 15 minutes, lost the game, that is, and kind of agree, but I never actually felt that we even really got back into it. They said it was, we were better in the second half, or we were better than the first half, but we weren't by any means good, and there was still only one side really that looked like doing anything. Unfortunately, it was just all round pretty poor.
I think we started off quite well in terms of the first 10 seconds. I think I remember seeing Sheriff run down the left wing, crossed it in. Obviously, didn't meet the foot or the head of a Kettering player, but I thought, started on the front foot really well. I think in terms of setting up, just the tactics yesterday just didn't do anything for me. It kind of reminded me back to the Marcus Law days. I don't know about you guys, but the exit of the ball from the back four is straight up front with no midfield. I think when we went 2-0 down, it got to that point where I was thinking it could have been 5 or 6. I think if we hadn't had Colin make a few good saves in that first half, it could have been a little bit worse for wear. I will have to agree later. I think the second half we were a lot better. Whatever words were mentioned by Paul Cox at half time, I think sparked a bit of life in the team. If we were, to be honest, to get back from 2-0 down, we did have a good chance. I think, again, Sheriff down the left-hand side, crossed in. I think Kennedy was on the end of it. If it just was nailed in a little bit lower, could have potentially made it 2-1. It could have been game in our hands. So, but in the in-betweeners meme, that was fucking dreadful last night, I would have to admit. And I think there's going to be lots of learnings from that.
Yeah, I think mention about the 4G pitch has to be said as well. They looked a lot more settled on it straight away from the get-go. We looked a bit unnervy. It took us, like you say, 45 minutes to settle into the game.
What are your thoughts on 3G pitches at this level, though? Because I'm not in favour of them, because if you think that you're playing on a pitch with, the old metal studs, and then going to play on a piece of AstroTurf, essentially, surely it favours home sides at this level.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't mind it in the league below. I completely get why teams have to use them, but once you get to this conference North South level, I don't agree with it at all.
Yeah, much the same. I think not that, in my opinion, that contributed in any way to our defeat last night. I just don't think we were good enough, and we were second best all over the pitch, regardless of whether it was plastic or grass. But they're not conducive to what I would say is real football. The ball doesn't bounce the same way as it does off the grass. The goals are on wheels. It's not proper football. And I get that from a financial point of view, and if they want to play reserve games, under 18 games, etc., on a second pitch that's got that they can hire out to the public to make money, all for it, but Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m, football should be played on a grass pitch across the country at every single level. End of.
Agree, and I'm not going to get into the Graham Souness analysis on the Liverpool 7-2 loss against Villa on Sunday, blaming the length of the grass impacting that Liverpool performance. But I do feel there is somewhat an advantage for clubs at our level who do play and train on AstroTurf. But again, going back to maybe the player performances, any standouts from last night, or are we literally back to the drawing board?
Yeah, I thought stand-up performances, no one's going to come out of that with major credit, and rightly so. It wasn't pretty. I thought Adam Collin made some decent saves, and as we've already said, it could have been quite a few more in the first half. So he can probably come out of it. He couldn't do an awful lot about two of the goals, and maybe Sheriff looked. He worked hard, but he didn't get a lot of support. He's not someone that is going to win you most of your aerial duels. And as you guys have said, we bypassed the midfield a lot. And his service, he didn't get an awful lot of it. And then in terms of standout idiocy, I know he's a youngish lad and you don't want to get on at people, but booting the ball away when you're on a yellow card, smashing it over behind the goal from 20 yards away when you're 1 or 2 goals down already, 2-0 down. Utterly stupid. It just defied belief, to be honest. I mean, the referee didn't book one of their players in the second half for a fairly identical incident, and that, on a separate matter, is typical of the referees you get at this level. But it was, we were already well under the cosh, and that just made it, the job 10 times more difficult. So I don't think you need any drastic reactions, but talk of sort of getting rid of players and things probably a bit over the mark, but it needs to act as a wake up call, for Saturday. Some players that were coming out with 3 and 4 out of 10. Really, you need 7s and 8s, and they're going to have to, provide a big reaction.
Yeah, I think negatives was the midfield last night. I think we were absolutely dominated. Questions have to be asked why Ben Stevens isn't in the starting lineup. Is it match fitness, or is he learning the Paul Cox way?
Is that the worst red card we've seen from a Kettering player?
I've seen some shockers over the years, so. But no, it's certainly up there. It's just, I don't know what's going through the guy's head. It's a red card all day long. I saw a lot of fans saying in the first half the ref was a bit biased towards them, but I thought he was pretty fair.
I think the problem with the ref last night is there were a lot of challenges in there that weren't fouls. I think that was half the problem. I think the bookings that he did give were warranted. I think he got that spot on, other than the point you made, Loader, where I feel their, I think centre back or right back, Daly, the name rings a bell. He kicked the ball out of play and got a yellow card, rightly so. And then 3 minutes later, he did the exact same thing, but got a warning. So my question then is, surely that yellow card is the warning, right? So why does the ref have to then go back and warn the player again for something he's already done and given a yellow card rightly for, to not then give him another yellow card, which should then have been a red?
Yeah, I think that's just, unfortunately, at this level, you're going to get referees that are inconsistent and make mistakes. You can't sit here and blame the referee for last night's performance because, unfortunately, regardless, we just weren't good enough. But it was a stupid red card, and it, one of the more daft I've seen over the years watching us. Damage might have already been done by that point. We were already fairly out of the game and not looking like we were going to get in it. But yeah, at that point, you may as well have even written off the chance of getting a point, to be honest.
I don't know whether you guys have listened to Paul Cox's interview after the game. I completely agree with what he said. Gloucester needed a reaction after Saturday. So we were the opposite. We had a great Saturday and a poor Tuesday. They've had a poor Saturday and a great Tuesday. They came out the blocks after losing to a team 3 divisions below us in the Cup. We had a pretty tricky tie, but yeah, I thought we played really well.
Completely different performance. I think, you look at Saturday, and let's be honest, there are little expectations at this stage of the season, but you always want to start well, right? I think if you look at back of last year, Paul Cox inherited a team that wasn't his, whereas this is now his team. So there can't be that excuse. But I left Saturday's clubhouse buzzing. I thought, oh my days, we look the part. We were solid at the back. The new boys, Bickley, was closing down, pressuring high, something that we hadn't seen from a Kettering side for a long, long time. And it was much better actually watching football. It wasn't the hoofball that we'd been used to in the past. And it started to show that we were getting a bit more solid and building the foundations from the defence, because Fryer on Saturday was a miles above everybody else in defence. And I just feel that there are gaps in that squad. I still believe there are gaps in this squad. But how can you, 3 days before a game, go from hammering a team essentially and playing really, really well to then probably looking at relegation fodder in a club that were kind of there or thereabouts with us at the back end of last season?
Yeah, that's non-league football for you, though, isn't it? If the players were consistently good, they'd be playing at a much higher level. It's pretty rare to see so many players have a day off, if you like, all on the same afternoon or same evening. But yeah, it just, I don't know whether they didn't prepare right, whether they, were complacent after a really good performance on Saturday, whether Gloucester just, they did come out and push hard from the first ball, and we just didn't know how to deal with it. But it's, it goes to show that, we're not going to be the finished article yet. And I don't necessarily think we're that many players short of being where we probably want to be personally. But, they do need to get their heads down again and, work hard and show that actually, it's more like Saturday most of the season rather than it would have been like last night. So not going to get too panicky yet, but over the next sort of 2 weeks or so, we've got a fair few games in the league, and obviously the FA Cup game we'll touch on later. And we need to basically put that one behind us and move on and get people on side, because when fans can't go and you're watching it on a stream, it's hard enough to feel connected and support the team. Not that you wouldn't, but it's hard enough to feel that anyway. And, if you're going up to the clubhouse and watching them turn in a performance like that last night, every week or whatever, it becomes even more difficult to, retain the support that you're going to need later in the year when hopefully, we can get back into grounds.
I think Saturday, it brings up the whole debate, the North versus the South. Chelmsford in the easier league. I think if we were to be in the South, we'd finish 5 places above where we would come the end of the season in the North.
So, Josh, I know you did watch the FA Cup game on Saturday and the game on Tuesday night. There were some concerns at the back end of last season on some of the squad players that we have. In particular, I don't want to mention any names, but I'm going to. Luke Graham, Ben Milnes, Richins is in that category as well. Bearing in mind that Richins went out on loan for a period of last season. Are they good enough for us at this level now, or are they past it?
Ben Milnes is a funny one. So when Coxie came in, I feel like he transformed him. He was one of our better players towards the end of the season last year. Yeah, he really impressed me. I was one of the get him out, get fresh faces and kind of brigade. But Luke Graham, especially as he's our captain, not what we need. Brutally honest, I think he's involved heavily within the background side of things within the club. It almost feels like he's a bit irreplaceable, because on performances you would not start Luke Graham if you had the choice.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we did have Ryan Holland coming in from Grantham, but obviously he decided to go back there. Big defensive player that probably would have played in in that. I think, like Josh said, Milnes, personally, I still think has a lot to give. He's decent, takes a good set piece as well. But we just looked a bit slow and off the pace at the back, and not strong enough actually either. We were getting bullied off the ball, not winning aerial battles. To be honest, the first half, and I think it might have been Josh who might have said this yesterday, it did look a bit Nicky Eden-esque. We were off the pace, didn't win anything in the air. I still think this squad's good enough to finish mid-table in the league, but basically they've got to put their ideas up.
Yeah, I think it's hard to one performance. You can't really judge much. Give it 5-10 games. We'll see where we are, see who's performing, see who's underperforming, then it's up to Coxie to what he does. But I want to do a special mention to Conor Kennedy. I think he was our best player last night, especially in Coxie's whole time at club. I think he's been our best player.
Talking about players still, so we had 3 new signings last Friday. Now, I don't know what the general consensus is on this, but obviously we had his pre-season. We did have trialists playing here and there, but we signed Ben Stevens, we signed Lewis Wilson, and that lad from Mansfield, Scott. So they came in on the Friday, the day before we'll play in the FA Cup game. Now, surely a coach and the squad should be settled, ready and prepared for a game that's happening the day after. Now, do you think that has maybe shifted the squad in terms of attitude? Because imagine being that player that was sitting in those roles to now come in and see these new players come in to think you're not going to get getting that starting lineup. Do you think that's kind of shifted some mentality of players?
No, I don't think so, to be honest. Because I mean, if you look at it, I know that the young lad from Mansfield did start, but Wilson and Stevens been on the bench, probably not match fit. I mean, to be fair, we would have been very pleased. I think certainly Ben Stevens, I thought was a great signing, and obviously it's happened because of the sad demise of Macclesfield. You wouldn't wish any club to fold and go out of business. Unfortunately, it has happened, and we've obviously profited from that in that sense by getting the 2 of them in. So, timing-wise, probably couldn't have done a lot about that because the opportunity probably presented itself because of that. Because of them sort of folding recently. So, I don't think it's an issue. And Milnes and Kennedy and players that play in those positions have been given the chance to prove themselves, or it looks like they're going to be given that chance because perhaps the new lads are not quite match fit. So no, I don't think so, and I think it's good that you've got that competition for places. I'd rather see a couple of players being able to play in each position, and people knowing they've got to turn in a couple of decent performances to keep their spot, rather than just knowing that we haven't got much strength in depth. I can turn up, stroll about for 90 minutes and I'll still start next week. So personally, hopefully we see a couple of changes on Saturday, and the players take it as a bit of a kick up the backside that is not an acceptable level of performance, and we don't see a repeat of it anytime soon.
Yeah, I'd second that. Unsure on the Wilson signing. I guess it's to bulk out the squad a bit. But yeah, Stevens, top quality signing.
So just talking about next week then and the shift of players, obviously it's back to Latimer Park for us. As we host Southport, we need a result quickly to forget about the Tuesday night drivel, really. They drew 0-0 last night against Hereford. I think Paul White had his first league start for them. Came away with a clean sheet. Are we positive?
Well, if Paul White can get a clean sheet, I'm pretty sure Adam Collins. We've like you say, we've got to get points on the board. As Lloyd had touched on before, we need to keep the interest. We are allowed back. The numbers come flocking in and give much needed revenue to the club.
Yeah, agreed. Southport will be a tough game. They're a decent side, but they're normally in and around the playoffs, or certainly top 10. But we're at home. We're on an actual grass pitch, not that silly plastic stuff. I have no doubt, they've all got a kick up the backside. after last night. There'll probably be a couple of changes. We might have, the odd player back, like you touched on earlier, Onyenson. I'm looking forward to seeing him and Sheriff up front, because he's, you've got a large combo almost, really. One, quick nippy striker and someone that can flick it on and hold it up. I think they'll work well together. But I'd take a point just to get us on the board, and a good performance. And anything above that would be a bonus. But yeah, we do need to quickly put Tuesday to bed, and hopefully we go into the next week after picking up a point or three on Saturday. And fans will relax again. It's the nature of the Kettering beast, unfortunately, is we lose and the world's going to end, and we win and we're going to piss the league. So it's always those polar extremes. But hopefully we'll get something Saturday. I feel like we should be in line to at least get a point.
I think this is the benefit of Coxey. Under previous managers, wouldn't have much faith going into a second game like this, but full well Coxey's not going to take that again. He would give him a much needed kick at the backside to put a decent performance. I think that's all that us fans want against these big teams like Southport. As long as we play well, nick a point here. Obviously, we want the 3 points, but as long as we're playing well, it bodes well for the season.
I agree. I do agree. And I feel like with Southport as well, and obviously having drawn with Hereford, they haven't scored any, let any in. So I don't know if that's a positive or a negative for us. But one thing that Paul Cox works his teams on really hard is to make sure their back four is solid. And that's something we didn't see from Tuesday night. So a clean sheet, I'll be happy with. I would take a 0-0 draw at this stage, to be honest. Like you said, Lola, get a point on the board, get that positivity again, feeling amongst the club. And I think this is where fans are so important at this level, especially. I feel, a club like ourselves who did have that performance on Tuesday, to then go to Latimer Park with 600 home fans chanting songs, spurring on the team, is something that's really missed. And I pray to God that the government, or something, open their eyes and realise that we can actually social distance at a ground within safe distance, and not go and sit in a cinema room where there's no airflow to make sure Cineworld stay afloat. So I think it's things like that which I think can be make or break for a lot of clubs at this level, especially because surely every game feels like a friendly, no?
It's okay, Chris, because the Southport game will have Jeffs on the hill on his own, so he'll spare us on to a win.
I agree, though. I think it is ridiculous. It's a whole different debate, isn't it? This whole what's safe and what's not. But elite versus non-elite. Rushden Diamonds last night played in front of 400-500 fans. I wouldn't have thought there'd be that many more at Gloucester, save for the fact that it's a new stadium that they're playing in. I mean, how rubbish is that for them? They've not been at home for 13 years, and the first time they play a home game, it's behind literally one man and his dog are watching it. So it does make a big difference. And I don't think it might be hard to motivate from within sometimes. No doubt those that had travelled last night would have been, cheering the boys on and probably getting into them a bit as well after the first sort of half an hour. And it might have helped change the outcome. You don't know, but fingers crossed for a positive outcome in the next few weeks and months.
So for any listeners that might not be aware, obviously we can still attend Latimer Park. By all means, it is 10 metres away from the pitch. But the club are taking bookings for fans to visit the clubhouse. And I would have to say I did pop up on Saturday, and just want to shout out to Gary Graham and the Clang for making it so extremely it was just a really good atmosphere. It was following COVID-19 guidelines, and obviously if you want to get somewhere for a cheaper stream with a few beers down your neck, I highly recommend it. So before we wrap up, let's end on something different, chaps. Every game there's a good, the bad and the ugly, even if we do put in a performance like we did on Tuesday. So should we start on the easy topic? Any villains from last night and why?
I'd have to say, I'm sure we're probably all on this one together. Sam Jones, silly second yellow card after a a tackle and a second tackle after that he could have gone for. Yeah, don't think that one's going to take too much debating. Team were already struggling. It was just petulant and silly.
Yeah, so the villains as such last night, Jones and I actually think Luke Graham got turned over, to be honest with you. Hero, obviously Adam Collin, 3 or 4 good saves, but it's hard to pick a positive out of that. But yeah, we move on. Southport, here we come.
The other villain of the piece is the Gloucester media team, who somehow managed to get a late Twitch stream. I would have honestly preferred not to have watched that 90 minutes. So thanks, guys. Big shout out for making me sit there and spend my Tuesday night feeling very, very sorry for myself.
Which I'm going to have to be honest. The stream itself was great quality. The picture, just unfortunately, the cameraman wasn't following all the action on the pitch last night. Villains for me, has to be Sam Jones, red card. Double yellow for his red card. Stupid decision to kick the ball away. And hero, echo yours as well, Josh, for Colin. I think without him, could have been a lot more. Thanks to all those tuning in on our first Match Hat podcast. All reviews, feedback and abuse is obviously welcome. Another reminder, because it won't hurt, that you can listen to the Tin Hat podcast on Spotify, Apple, Podbean and YouTube. You can also subscribe, like, follow and get involved. We do actually now have an email address, so if you have any topics or conversations you'd like to hear on this podcast, then please feel free to get in touch. That is the tinhatpodcast@gmail.com. So let's go again, and fingers crossed for a result or two against Southport. In Paul Cox we trust. So thanks, lads.
Cheers, Chris. See you Saturday.